So hey guys, a lot of you may know it's not my normal video recording place though, but today I wanted to talk about something that a lot of people have asked me about, or I've talked to several people about, and these are going to be my spiritual experiences, like my ghost experiences. So the first one I really want to talk about is, so when I was really little, I'd probably say I was about 7 years old. We went to this place called Children's Village, and while I was there, I ended up going to this house that they made a replica of this house that had been burnt. And I remember being just so emotional, like I was sobbing inside, and like I'd never been there, so it was so weird to me that happened. And another thing I'm going to talk about, so like I talk about when I was 7. Let's see, when I was like 9 or 10, I went to Washington, D.C. I think it was when I was 10. And I went there for a 5th grade class field trip. And during this field trip, we went to the Holocaust Museum. And I remember going there, and I had just walked in, and it was just so overwhelmingly sad. And everyone was just so quiet, and I just was picking up on all these different vibes, I guess, and I just burst into sobs, and I had to actually physically leave the facility. So like I said, that happened when I was 10. Let's see, another experience that I had was when I was growing up. I lived within driving distance to two national battlefields for the Civil War. I lived by the Gettysburg National Battlefield, and I lived by the Antietam National Battlefield in Sharpsburg, Maryland. And I remember going to Sharpsburg. We had gone through a luminary service. We were driving through. We were all packed into my mom's car, so I was maybe like 14 or 15 at the time. I was a really young teenager. And what really caught my eye was whenever we were driving through, and there was a fire. And at this fire, there was a bunch of reenactors that were sitting around, and one of them I saw looked straight up at me, and it felt like they were backing up into the dark, and I couldn't see them anymore. So afterwards, a couple months later, once I had my license and everything, I actually drove back to Sharpsburg, and I brought up, hey, I was here a while back, you guys were doing the luminaries, and you guys had reenactors there, and they were just kind of like really sketchy, they kind of just like stared at me. And to this day, it still gives me chills, and like I'm getting kind of nervous talking about it, but the guy that was working there just looked at me like, what are you talking about? We didn't have any reenactors that day, because I brought up the day, and I was like, what do you mean you had no reenactors? They're like, we didn't do any type of reenactments for the luminaries. The luminaries were only supposed to be a bag for each soldier that had died at the battlefield. So that brought chills to my body. I was like, what the hell? It was just so bizarre and just very weird, I guess you could say. And that's when I kind of realized, I have this ability to be able to see spirits. This, it really started kicking in once I moved to Hawaii with my husband. We live about 30 minutes away from Pearl Harbor. And as we all know, Pearl Harbor is a very haunted place. And when I went to Pearl Harbor for the first time, this was like a month after I had moved there. I've never been to Pearl Harbor before. I never knew what to expect there. Didn't know what I was doing. So we went into the museum. It was my husband, my sister, and myself. So we went into this museum. It was the Aviation Museum. And, we were just walking around, and you kind of feel this overwhelming sense of sadness, and just, I remember hearing the sounds of screaming and hearing airplanes, and I actually had to physically go like this over my ears, like cover my ears, because it was just so loud and intense that it just shook me to my core. I was just like, man, I know they had the Hickam Airfield, they had all the military stuff going on, because I am a military spouse myself. So it was kind of bizarre for me to hear that and just feel like, I was in the middle of something. But when I went outside, there was absolutely zero airplanes. And like I said, I went to the museum. I didn't really, the only thing I heard was the airplanes, but I didn't really feel anything while I was there. I just remember walking around, just enjoying, all the sights that you could see. Just, it was a very unique experience. If you've ever been to the Aviation Museum in Pearl Harbor, it's so unique. It's such an interesting experience. I was there, like I said, my sister was visiting, and we took her out, and she seemed to enjoy it. And my husband was there as well. We were just out having a good time. We were not expecting to see anything, to feel anything, but I did mention that I did hear airplanes. They were like, yeah, it could be because Pearl Harbor's around in Honolulu. There's the Honolulu airport, there's the Hickam Airfield. It could have been a lot of things, and that's kind of what I attribute it to be. I remember going into the hangars, and you could see these they had models, I guess you could say, of what the airplanes looked like that they would have flown back in the 1940s, that a lot of the Air Force and the sailors would have used. So I remember just walking around there. I was not expecting to feel anything, to see anything. And I was just kind of just minding my own business. And what I will say, whenever you go to Pearl Harbor, if you've never been there before, you will get a very heavy feeling there. I remember getting a very heavy feeling, just feeling just an overwhelming urge of, I felt like a sense of being watched. I literally felt like while I was there, I felt like I was being watched. And the weirdest thing is, I went again, I'd probably say early July. I went to go get my pappy a Pearl Harbor book, because he was in the Air Force, so I wanted to get him a book based off of military stuff. So while I was there, I didn't really see anything. I just went in there. But I think it's because I went to the gift shop. I wasn't really in the hangars where I had my experience at. I just was walking around, went to the gift shop, got him this book, shipped it out. That was the way it was. So, like I said, I didn't really feel anything at Pearl Harbor until we got into the hangars. And if you don't know what a hangar is, it's usually where they used to put, they would store a whole bunch of, airplanes and helicopters back during the World War II era. And if you go in there, you will see some bullets, the bullet markings from where the Japanese had shot at the Americans here at Pearl Harbor on the island of Oahu, where I live. The base where I live, you can actually see some of the destruction that was caused there, because not only did they attack Pearl Harbor. This is something a lot of people don't know. A lot of people assume that the Japanese just went straight to Pearl Harbor. They actually had attacked and shot at various military bases on Oahu while they were going to Pearl Harbor. And my base that I was living at is one of those. So what's really bizarre to me is that, I'm just walking around, with my husband and everything, and my sister and our neighbor who had driven us at the time, because we didn't have a good car. We were just minding our own business. I wasn't really expecting to see anything out of the ordinary. I'm just here to look at the museum. And I saw something that to this day really freaks me out. So I have a gift where I can see spirits, but I don't see them like I would see you and me. I get them like a memory in my head. I can visualize what they show me. The spirits will show me what they used to look like through a memory that they had of what they remember them looking like. So I had been just, walking around doing my own thing, and out of the corner of my eye, and I actually had to turn because I saw it, and it, like, I could see what the spirit was doing. So it was a spirit of a young sailor, and this sailor, I probably would say, was within, around like 18, 19, no more than 20 years old. And he was dressed in the full 1940s Navy attire with the white cap and everything. He's just peeking around from behind one of the airplanes, that were hanging around there. And he's just kind of like looking around, and he sees me, and he looks at me. And when he notices that I could see him, he ducks behind something. And I remember walking over with my husband, my sister. I was like, I swear to God, I just saw someone, like a sailor, looking around through there. But when I tell my husband and all, like, I don't see spirits and stuff like as flesh and blood. I see them as like a memory, or what they portray to me as. I see it visually in my mind. I don't see it visually as like you and me communicating. But he told me, he was like, you're crazy, you didn't see anything, you're losing your mind, you can hallucinate and these type of things, which is what I thought was at first. But what really, shocked me was that nobody else saw it. Whenever I saw this spirit, I feel personally this was a spirit of a young sailor. Like I said, he had to be no more than 19, 20 years old. When I saw him, I felt just pain and sorrow and terror and confusion. I just remember looking at this guy, and whenever he looked at me, like, we were looking at each other, and he just made me feel just awful and sad, and I just wanted to cry. And I was like, look, I need to get out of here. That's when I told my husband, I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to leave. And that's when I realized I can see these spirits visually in my mind. I have talked to a lot of experts about this. I have talked to a lot of people that live on island, because if you don't know, a lot of people in the Polynesian culture, they believe in seeing spirits. And I personally believe that once a body dies, like a person dies, their body goes underground, but their soul has nowhere else to go. So what I think about spirits is that they are, in fact, the souls of the people that were left behind. And I don't talk a lot about my experiences because it is just so weird, and a lot of people don't believe me, and that just makes it so much harder to talk about, because when people don't believe you, you're making yourself out to seem like they're making you seem like you're crazy, and then you start to believe it for a while, like maybe I am crazy. But I have gone, like I said, I only saw that spirit there that one time, but I hadn't gone into the hangars the second time that I went back to Pearl Harbor. I only went to the museum. So I'm thinking that it was, in fact, a legit sighting, and I think I personally do have a gift to see spirits if they want me to. Like, I don't see them all the time. I only see them in places that, have had trauma and stuff. Like I said, I've experienced it at Sharpsburg, Gettysburg, at Pearl Harbor. Those have all been places of traumatic experience. And like I said, a lot of people assume, you're at these places, you're probably just, is your mind's playing tricks on you. And like I said, at first I did believe that. But there have been a lot of people with similar experiences to what I saw. But the fact that I do see it quite often, like, I do see spirits and I do feel things quite often. And so that is my spiritual experience. And I do want to see about, like, getting into that more, and, maybe going ghost hunting here and there, see what I can pick up or feel, because I do, like I said, I do feel other, like, people's experiences, and I've felt their pain before. And I remember, the sailor made me feel just awful. Like, I felt so sad, and then I felt like hot, like burning. And I remember we just couldn't keep our eyes off of each other. We were just like locked in, and it only happened for like a split moment. It wasn't constant. And as soon as he knows, like, hey, she can see me, that's when he ducks away and goes and disappears. And it was the most bizarre thing I've ever experienced in my life. And I would love to know what you guys think about that, or any of you guys have any experienced any type of spiritual ghost encounters yourselves. Because, like I said, this is the freakiest thing that I have ever encountered in my life. So, another thing too, like I have experienced something at my own house. You know, I always constantly feel like I'm being watched, and I feel like I'm being watched by a young kid, like a teenage boy, and I think that this might also be the same spirit from the aviation museum, because when I sense this spirit, I sense that he is very young. I sense that he is about 18, 19 as well. And I sense that he was, in fact, at one point in the military. So that's something that I can pick up on, as I can pick up on, you know, what the spirits want me to see. I can pick up their age, the way that they look. Because the sailor that I saw had blondish brown hair, and it was kind of curly but not quite, and he had blue eyes, just really piercing blue eyes, and he kind of just like I said, he ducked. He was wearing old 1940s attire clothing, and it was just very bizarre to me. But like I said, I would love to know what you guys think about that. If you guys have ever been to Hawaii, there has been countless experiences of the paranormal here on any of the islands. So that is something to also consider, is that this whole island is completely haunted. There's actually a haunted plantation not too far from where I live. There's a couple haunted buildings. There's a couple haunted military stuff going. Like, there's just a lot of people have experienced a lot of things on this island, and I would love to know what you guys think about that. Of course, what I'm telling you is 100% factual. I would never ever lie about this type of stuff. It's just, to me, I find it weird. I find it really weird and bizarre. My husband thinks it's weird, and thinks I'm just making it up, and he doesn't believe in the paranormal or anything like that. So, like I said, I would love to know what you guys think about that. Let me know down below if you guys have ever experienced anything like I just mentioned, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.